you will never get better at sales as an entrepreneur without using this simple concept but effective AF. And in today's video, we're gonna go over why you should practice this concept every single day, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, in order to get better at sales and just close more deals. It's gonna be a short one. And before we dive into that, let me introduce myself. My name is Arslan, and I'm the founder of Socratic Sales. And the last few years, I've closed multi 4 and 5 figure deals internationally without using any sales scripts, just by understanding how humans work, why their brain says yes, and helped hundreds of business owners to do the same with the Socratic sales system. And literally, I've been doing that every single day the last few years, and I'm still doing that every single day. And this concept is feedback. Now, what do I mean by that? Feedback. What is a feedback? When you're having a sales call or a cold call, how can you get a feedback from this sales call? What can you learn? Because every single time we want to ask ourselves, what can I learn from this event, from this situation, from this sales call, from this cold call, from this person? Because let me tell you something, you can always learn from anything and from anyone. Now, ask yourself, even from, let's say, as an example, alcoholic, what can you learn from an alcoholic, you may think? There's nothing to learn, but think differently. Maybe in this case, you could learn, oh, okay, if you do XYZ or if you drink a lot, you're gonna become this person. And that's the consequence. So the lesson is, don't become like this person. Don't be like this person. Yeah, there's always lessons somewhere. And if you learn to get or to learn or to get the lessons from anywhere, from small details, from maybe you may think not important events, not important people. I'm telling you, always have this white belt mentality. Why is it called white belt mentality? Because it's like white belt. If you have a white belt, you are a student, right? And you kind of a beginner, you could say, yeah. But in this case, we're always we want to be always students, yeah. You want to be a student all the time, all your life. It's a lifelong journey, and we want to learn every single day, non-stop. We don't want to let our ego say, okay, I know everything, I know this concept, okay, I know what to do, I had like whatever 5 years experience. Doesn't matter. Every single person can learn from someone. 80, 70 years old, very important person with expertise can learn something from a 10 years old boy. Yeah. So the point is, on a sales call, you want to first create this habit where you're always observing yourself and observing the person in front of you, the prospect. But this is just a part of it, because you can't really learn something without coming back to this material. And how can we get a material from a sales call? simply by recording this call. I had many entrepreneurs who are selling high ticket offers, and when I'm asking them, did you record the call? They say no. And many entrepreneurs, they underestimate this simple concept of just recording yourself and recording the call. Because it's like a chess game. Can you play without analyzing your games and without writing down your moves? Yes, you can. But are you going to get better at chess? Probably not. Why do you think this, even grandmasters, they're still writing down the moves. They're still analyzing their games. Why? They're grandmasters. Because you can always learn something. You can always improve. There's no limits. Don't limit yourself. Don't think that you know everything. Like I follow, the philosophy of Socrates. He said, I know that I know nothing. And I will always know that I know nothing. Yes, I have expertise. Yes, maybe I know I know this, I know that, but it doesn't matter. I can always learn more. I can always, listen to someone. Yeah? Because you never know. Every single person could provide you some piece of value. Listen. Yeah? So when you're recording the sales call, you can go over every single small detail and come back all over again and learn from it. When I've been reviewing some of my mentees' sales calls, yeah, we literally spent 40 minutes on the first 2 minutes of the sales call. And the sales call was like 40 minutes long, Can you imagine how much value you can get from 2 minutes? The framing, how he started, the way how he introduced himself, what was his body language, what was the body language of the person? Did he create this perception of competence? And so many different caveats. But God is in the details. God is in the details. And simplicity is genius because you don't want to overcomplicate anything. You want to just, by doing this simple, by keeping in mind this simple concept of just recording yourself, observing yourself, and observing the prospect, you will just improve exponentially. It is everywhere. You can try it everywhere. Now, how can you get, if you're learning a language, if you're learning, let's say, French, how can you get a instant feedback? It's just by talking, and then at the same time getting a feedback from someone. You can get a feedback from AI. You could talk with the AI and tell them like, okay, if I say something wrong, please correct me. But we're gonna continue the conversation. Or if you have a teacher or a coach, he will correct you every single time. Or you could record yourself when you are telling a story in French, and then you could analyze. Yeah? Where did you make a mistake? Was it a big mistake? Was it a small mistake? But another thing is you gotta do something and fail as soon as possible. Fail and get a feedback. Even if you think that you didn't fail, you still can get a feedback and get a value from it. Because why, if you think about why this top pro athletes, they have a coach. Why? They're making millions. They have everything. They have career. You know, they're super good at what they're doing. So why do they need a coach? For the feedback. Feedback. Why? Because coach is observing them all the time. They can't really observe themselves while playing something. Yes, you are observing like subconsciously, consciously, you know, but you can't really give yourself an objective feedback if you're not recording yourself, or if someone is not recording yourself, or if someone is not observing you. So the idea of this video is simple. Always observe yourself everywhere. If you're approaching, let's say you're approaching a girl. Now it's just 5-10 seconds conversation. Now, am I gonna tell you record this conversation? No, you don't need to. If you want, you can, but you don't need to. But what you can do is, as soon as she rejected you, write it down on a piece of paper and journal about it. Okay, I did this, I could have done this. Not overthinking that in your brain and not creating this, you know, chaos in your brain. No, because writing down on a piece of paper is 10x more effective than just overthinking that. Plus, you never learn when you're just overthinking. You think that you learn something if you're thinking about it, but actually you're not. You'll forget it. You'll forget it. Yeah, that's a paradox of learning, because when we think that we understand something, because we just it doesn't really mean anything. We gotta recall it. And most of the time you want to recall it verbally or on a piece of paper. Yeah. Overthinking that in your brain is not a good tactic, because you're literally it's literally overthinking. Yeah. And when you're overthinking, it's never good. It has nothing good. You're just creating this stress in yourself, you're creating this internal, chaos by overthinking all the time. That's why writing it down or verbally recalling, okay, so I did this, I should have done this, but it is scientifically proven that writing down on a piece of paper is many times more effective than just having this in your, again, overthinking that in your brain. Or it's better just to, you can read something. Okay, you read something, let's say you read a book. Now, how can you get the feedback? You can get the feedback from yourself. How can you get the feedback from yourself? Try to recall, try to explain it. Let's say you imagine you have a friend, yeah, and you're trying to explain something, or you're trying to tell him what you've learned from this page, let's say, or from this chapter. Now try to recall. If you're making mistakes, it means that you haven't really learned this part of the information. You could explain it with your own words. It doesn't mean just, learning by heart and just memorizing every single line. No, it's not about that. Because in sales, we're not using any scripts. Yeah, that's our philosophy of Socratic sales. Because if you're using script, you're being scripted, you never learn anything. Remember from the school days, when we learn something, the next months we can't even remember that. Like, obviously we can, some very, very small parts, but most of the material, 90% of the material is gone. Because we're not recalling and we didn't really understand it, we just memorized it. So, get the feedback, yeah? From yourself, get the feedback from a mentor, get the feedback from a recording, from AI, doesn't matter. You gotta always get a feedback. Whatever you do, doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what you want to improve in, but in sales, this is crucial. I'm telling you, this is crucial because many entrepreneurs, I've met them, they underestimate recording, underestimate the feedback because they think that they learned something. But after a sales call, how can you say whether you've done something right or wrong? Of course, you could judge by the outcome. This is the only way to say that something is working or not. But you could always, by recording yourself or by getting feedback, you could see that, okay, I could have done this better. Yourself, by just watching your own recording, you could find something. You will find something, I'm telling you. So, I hope this video has given you some, simple but effective idea that you will implement if you haven't. And be formless. This is Socratic Sales. I appreciate your likes, comments, anything. Thanks for watching. I see you the next one.